right, welcome back for part 2 on prepositions. We learned last time that there are 3 different types of prepositions. There are the independent prepositions, and these are the prepositions that stand alone. You have the preposition as one word and then the object of that preposition as a separate word. These are easy to identify and easy to translate. They never really change and always pretty much stay consistent. The second is the makef preposition. Now the makef preposition are those prepositions that are joined to their word by a horizontal dash that's called a makef. Again, these are easy to identify, and you find them, pretty consistent throughout the Hebrew Bible. Now, the third most common, or the third type of preposition, is the inseparable preposition. These are the prepositions that are actually a part of the word and prefix the word. These become the most difficult to deal with, and these are the ones that change quite a bit. Now, let's go back quickly for just a moment to the independent prepositions. Here on this sheet are the 10 most common prepositions or independent prepositions that you'll find. It is good to memorize these, and I will make these charts available to you so that you can have them to look at and memorize. There's lapene, before or in front of, with or together, atra, after or behind, ben, between, la, main, on account of, for the sake of, nagad, opposite or in front of, bed, behind or through, ain, on account of, because, azal, beside or near, ba'abar, because of and for the sake of. So these are going to be your most common, the 10 most common independent prepositions that you'll find prefixing a word. And it's good to know those and to have those close by so that you when you see them and they're not a part of your regular vocabulary, you'll go, oh, that's a preposition, and that's what that means. Now, here are the most common, the 5 most common makef prepositions. You have il with a makef. This is on, upon, or on account of, according to. It occurs almost 6,000 times in the Hebrew Bible. Then you have el, which is in or toward. It also occurs 5,500 times. Then you have ed, until, as far as, during, 1,200 times. Et, with or beside. Min, from or out of. And so these are the prepositions with the makef that are most common in the Hebrew Bible. Now, more common than the makef prepositions, more common than the independent prepositions, of course, are the troublemakers, the inseparable prepositions. These are our 3 inseparable prepositions. The lamed with the vocal schwa, it occurs, look at that, over 20,000 times. And then the beith, it occurs over 15,000 times. And then the kaf occurs over 3,000 times. So these are definitely the most common prepositions you're going to find in the Hebrew Bible. They're going to be the ones that occur most frequently, more frequently than the makef, and more frequently than the independent prepositions. So it is good. And again, I'll send you guys the PowerPoints for these so that you have them at your disposal so that you can look over these and memorize these. These are good. I don't want to call them cheat sheets because you can't take them into the quizzes with you, but to have these close by and to summarize the information, I think is very helpful. At least it has been for me. Now, when we come to the prepositions, always know your vocabulary, because if you know your vocabulary, then when you see something that stands out to you as different, you can go, ooh, this is not a word I'm familiar with. Now, if I take off the preposition here, then that I recognize this word. That's a good way to clue you in that this word has been connected with a preposition. So let's look back over into chapter 6. And we know that before most consonants, the inseparable prepositions are going to appear with the vocal schwa. And that's going to be, we've got the Beth, the Kaf, and the Lamed. And the vocal schwa are the two horizontal red dots at the bottom. And these are our most common inseparable prepositions again. So we know that before most consonants, the inseparable prepositions are going to appear with a vocal schwa. And if you look on page 51 in your book, you can see in a field, basuda, that it's prefixed with the Beth, the Dagesh, and the vocal schwa. Then we have Luniar, for a young man. So you have your Lamed and your vocal schwa. Then you have Kamelik. You have your Kaf, your Dagesh, and your vocal schwa. Prefixing Melik, for like a king. Now, if you have a reduced or a Hatef vowel, the inseparable preposition is going to take or assume the corresponding short vowel of the Hatef vowel. It's going to be the same type of rule, and go back to chapter 4 and look at 12, the two rules for the schwa, and know those two rules, because just as they apply for the wa, they also apply here for the inseparable prepositions. So what happens if you have a word, for instance, like men? Give me just a second to write this down here in a way that you can actually read it. Now, here we have the word for the pluralization of men. Men. Now, if we wanted to say like men, you would think that what we would do is put the prefix kof and the vocal schwa. But what we have here, we have a Hatef vowel here, and then we have the vocal schwa. These two cannot work together. So something's got to happen with these two, because these two cannot exist together. So what happens is that we lose the vocal schwa and we assume the pathak. Now, let me show you again on another word how this works. And again, I'm just taking the illustrations or examples that are given to you on page 51 of your book. We're going to look at truth. Truth is a meth. Got the aleph, the mem, the ta. So here again, we have the Hatef vowel here, and if we wanted to say in truth, we would prefix it with Beth. You would think that it would look like this, but it can't look like this because we have these two cannot appear side by side with each other. So what happens, and this is called compensatory lengthening, whenever these two are side by side, the first one gets lost and it assumes the vowel marking here. So that is the standard or general rule for when you have a reduced or a Hatef vowel and in an inseparable preposition. It's going to take the corresponding short vowel of the Hatef vowel. And again, if you look in 412 of your textbook, this is the same rule that you'll find there that's being applied. Now, before consonants for the vocal schwa, the inseparable prepositions are spelled with a herrick. So if we have the word prophet, navim, and we're going to go prophets. So we have the noon, the beith, yod, aleph, yod, and final name. So here before the noon in prophets, we have the schwa. And we know that if we're going to prefix it, let's just say with the lamed, it should look like that. But again, these two cannot coexist side by side, so something has to happen. Now, where it's not a hatef, where it's an actual schwa that it's side by side with, then what happens is that the schwa on the inseparable preposition becomes a herrick. And that's the rule for that one. In nouns with a definite article, the prefixing of the preposition is somewhat unusual. Now, there's noun and verb rules, but we're not going to concern ourselves with the verb rules because we're not working on verbs yet. We're just working on nouns. So the prefixing of the preposition is somewhat unusual. The vowel and the dogish forte of the definite article are retained, but the consonant of the preposition replaces the hey of the definite article. So the following examples are going to illustrate this process, and this is on page 52 of your book. And I don't like making these videos very long, so I'm going to stop here and have our next one to pick up with nouns and the definite article.